Minivans are so much better than SUVs in almost every single regard, and it's such a shame that they are so much less popular than three-row SUVs or crossovers, which remains one of the most popular segments in the United States. So let's go over some of the key features that make minivans so much better than SUVs. Number one is going to be legroom. Have you ever gone into a three-row SUV and been stuck in the third row and realized that it is completely inappropriate for an adult to be sitting back there for a long period of time? Your knees are basically stuck in your chest, you're basically sitting on the floor, and you're also just banging directly into the seat in front of you. Now, if you compare a similar sized SUV to a minivan, you'll find that the minivan has significantly more legroom, to the point where adults can actually comfortably sit in the back. For example, the Toyota Highlander is one of the most popular three-row crossovers, and it has a third-row legroom of 28 inches. In comparison, the Toyota Sienna has a legroom of over 38 inches, which makes an extreme difference in terms of the ride quality. And now you may say that, well, the Highlander is one of the smaller three-row crossovers. What about the Kia Telluride or the Honda Pilot instead? And it is true that they have better third-row legroom in their class. For example, they're around 31 to 32 inches of legroom. But even then, compared to the Carnival and the Odyssey, those are over 36 or 38 inches of third row legroom, which again is significantly more legroom. The fact that the seats sit so much higher off the ground too also makes it just so much more of a comfortable ride. So here's a couple of videos demonstrating the difference between, for example, the Telluride and the Carnival. Even though the legroom itself may not be that big of a difference between these two cars, you'll see that there's such a big improvement in the ergonomics of how somebody's sitting in the back, and it's just so much more comfortable to be in the minivan.
All right, guys, third row time, and it's hit or miss. So the good news is my head is not hitting the headliner, and we have AC.
Again, look at his legs. Look how high up his knees are.
Two cup holders.
How close he's sitting to the ground.
Is how high my knees are. It's just too high, and this is why I say if you have large people that need to sit in the third row, you're nuts buying a mid-size SUV.
And now let's compare that with the Kia Carnival.
What kind of space we have in that third row? All right, guys, we're in this third row, and once again, your third row passengers are going to love you, because they have more room back here than they would in any SUV, including the Telluride. You do get USBs back here. I got plenty of places to put all sorts of snacks, make like a little nacho dip tray back here, have some nacho cheese, and just really enjoy the ride back here. Plus, remember, I'm on camera, so I can't do anything that I don't want my parents seeing me do, and I think that that is really great technology to have in this system.
And so just look how much more of a natural seating position he has, and obviously it looks a lot more comfortable. Now let's talk about cargo space. And this is another aspect where minivans far, far outclass any comparable sized crossover or SUV. All right, so if you look at the Honda Pilot, which is one of the most popular three-row crossovers, you'll find that behind the third row, you have 18.6 cubic feet of cargo space. And with all of the third row and second row seats folded, you have about 87 cubic feet of cargo space. This is for a vehicle that is 200 inches long, so quite a long vehicle. So let's go on to the Honda Odyssey, which would be kind of the direct comparison in this case. And this vehicle is only 5 inches longer at 205 inches. And behind the third row, you get almost double the amount of cargo capacity with 32.8 cubic feet. And with all of the seats folded down, you have up to 145 cubic feet of cargo capacity. This is very similar among all of the minivans, except really the Toyota Sienna, because you can't remove the second row seats. But the 2024 Kia Carnival, for example, it's 203 inches long. You have a massive 40 cubic feet of storage space behind the third row, and 145 cubic feet with all the seat area folded down. So if you look at the image, you can just see the massive amount of cargo capacity that you would get with a minivan, especially behind this third row. If you are really, lugging a bunch of people around and you have a bunch of strollers or luggage, you can keep the third row up and still utilize all of this compartment area here for all of the luggage and strollers and things like that. Whereas for a Honda Pilot, for example, behind the third row, you really have a much, much more limited amount of cargo space. You don't have that deep well where you're going to be able to fit so many items like you would in the minivan. When I had a 2002 Toyota Sienna, it often surprised me how often I was able to utilize that third row space in order to move from place to place or just carry heavy furniture from one location to another. And it just came in handy so many times, things that would not have been able to fit in a three-row SUV. And I wanted to even compare this to a full-size SUV because if you really wanted to go compare apples to apples, you would compare a minivan to a 3-row SUV, a full-size SUV like the GMC Yukon XL. Now look at this one. This one has dimensions with a length of 225 inches, so 20 inches longer than the Honda Odyssey. But even despite that, it has less cubic feet of storage compared to the Honda Odyssey, despite being 20 inches longer. So again, in terms of cargo capacity, you are completely unmatched with having a minivan. Number 3, and probably one of the biggest selling points of minivans, is the sliding doors. Now the sliding doors may not seem like such a big deal at first, but it is really so much more of an intuitive and useful design that we really shouldn't be having all these swinging doors. We should probably all be using sliding doors. They're just so much more practical. There are so many advantages to having sliding doors. So one of the big advantages is that even if you are in a very tight parking spot, you're going to be able to have that entire length of the sliding door open up. So if you're loading people in, or you are taking out a car seat or putting a child in a car seat, for example, you're never going to run into that situation where you are barely propping your door open in order to prevent hitting the other car, and you just have to squeeze in through a tiny little gap. Regardless of how tight your parking space is, you're going to have that full area available, and this just makes the ease of access of minivans so much more superior. For kids, there are significant safety advantages to having sliding doors. For one, they're not going to be able to open up their door into oncoming traffic, for example. And also, when you're in that tight parking spot, you're not going to have to worry about the kids opening the door too quickly or too far and dinging up other people's cars. On top of that, think about how easy it is for a kid to enter a minivan, because with a sliding door, all they have to do is press a button or put their hand on the sliding door and it will automatically open all the way up for them. Whereas imagine you're a 3 or 4-year-old kid trying to get into a large SUV. The door is going to be super high up, it's going to be super heavy, and there's no way they're going to be able to open that door. Furthermore, if you are the driver, you can actually just open all the doors of your minivan for all of your passengers without even getting out of your seat. So almost all minivans basically allow you to sit in the front seat, press a button, and let all of your kids in without any hassle whatsoever. And this is just another one of those major convenience features that minivans have. As a segue a little bit from the sliding doors, and I already talked about this a little bit, but the ease of access of minivans is just unparalleled by any other car as well. So the ride height is much lower. So kids, elderly people, anybody with mobility issues does not have to step up as high in order to get into the vehicle, which makes it a lot easier to get into. It's also much easier to get into the third row in a minivan compared to any other vehicle, especially ones that have special designs, such as the Honda Odyssey, which has the magic sliding seats. So you can put it in any configuration that you want and create very large pathways to your third row. You've got grips and handlebars to help people get into the car as well. And overall, I just can't continue to emphasize how much more functional a minivan is compared to a normal SUV.
All right, here's my girls here. We're going to do a quick demo of some of the benefits to the minivan. From the ground to the absolute first step that you can get into on the side here is going to be 15 inches, okay?
All right, so this is going to be for the Toyota 4Runner now. All
right. Step in height on this one is 21.5 inches. Okay, so that's much different, much different. My little girl cannot make it in this, and my oldest one can barely make it. All right, up in there. All right, a 2-year-old can step up into this minivan, no problem. All right, come here, Claire, come here. If I'm gonna pick her up and put her in, as you can see, there's a ton of room to go over the sidewalk here to get her in the car seat. All right, here's my 4-year-olds. All right, get up in there, hop up. All right, you hop down. All right.
And again, compared to the 4Runner.
This is my 2-year-old. All right, so both of them could get in. Obviously, they have to use the latch point strap. I don't use that. I just use the actual seat belt, which I feel a little more secure with. All right, as far as lift up goes, all right, see this right here? Hi. When I put her in, she's pretty much whacking her head every time I stick her in there. Okay.
Let's talk about cost and fuel efficiency. So compared to a comparable full-size SUV, Minivans are going to be significantly cheaper. For example, a minivan will probably run you around $40,000, whereas a full-size SUV will probably run you around $80,000. So that's a significant savings. And you get better fuel efficiency too. For example, you get around 28 miles per gallon highway on your minivan, whereas you will get 19 miles per gallon on your full-size SUV. And even compared to crossovers, you will find that there's significant cost savings with a minivan because all of the safety features and all of those things that families really care about tend to be present on the lowest trim levels of your minivan. Whereas if you wanted to find the equivalent equipment on a 3-row crossover, oftentimes you're going to have to be paying more for that, and that's going to significantly increase your cost. And even if you don't end up going for all the higher level trims, minivans are still pretty much the exact same cost as a crossover, if not slightly cheaper, $1,000 or $2,000 cheaper. So regardless, you're having a significant cost savings. Minivans also have a lot of accessory features that you're not going to find on SUVs. For example, a lot of them have cabin watch and cabin talk, which allows you to have a camera monitoring the people in your back row, make sure that everybody's safe and that there's no problems going on in the back. And so this is another very handy feature for families. You've also got much more interior storage space and cup space and just places to put things, USB charging ports. They tend to put a lot more of these on minivans than a crossover or SUV, and this just makes it so much easier for family trips or big trips with a lot of people. And then you've even got kind of more luxury features too, like reclining seats or seats that slide all the way back, basically giving you like a luxury business class airplane experience if you really wanted it. Safety-wise, minivans are outstanding and better than SUVs in many regards as well. You can see that on the IHSS driver death rate statistics that minivans actually are one of the lowest driver death rates possible. And obviously this has to do a little bit with the type of people who drive minivans, who are going to be driving a lot more carefully and defensively. But also, minivans ride much lower to the ground, and so they have a decreased risk of rollovers compared to an SUV. And rollovers are one of the most dangerous and deadly situations that you can be in during a car crash. And so the fact that you have a decreased rollover risk is actually quite substantial. And then lastly, I want to talk about aesthetics, because I think aesthetics is probably the main reason that most people don't want to pursue a minivan. But if you think about how much more functional it is, practical it is, and just beneficial for day-to-day use, I would argue that aesthetics really should take a backseat. Obviously, everybody has their own preferences, but who cares about aesthetics when you have a car that can do everything? It can load 8 people, it can fit all their cargo, it can help you move. It's also more comfortable. And I actually forgot to mention that, but the ride quality in minivans is oftentimes better than SUVs because it rides lower to the ground. It's designed for comfort, whereas crossovers are more designed for sportiness and sharp handling, and they want you to feel the road and the bumps in the road, whereas minivans want to make a quiet experience that's smooth and comfortable. And then big SUVs, they drive like trucks, so they're massive, they're unwieldy, and they're bulky. So minivans, again, have an advantage in ride comfort as well. But anyways, going back to aesthetics, in my opinion, minivans are looking better and better over time, especially with newer minivans like the Kia Carnival, who are trying to kind of shed that minivan appearance and look more like an SUV. From far away, you really wouldn't even be able to tell that a Kia Carnival is an SUV, and I only expect that this will continue to improve as the years go forward. Honestly, the design philosophy for minivans is probably the biggest reason why you get so much more legroom and cargo space compared to an SUV, because with an SUV, you have this really long hood, which is honestly just wasted space. People like it for the aesthetics, but I'd rather have a shorter length of the hood because that would improve both visibility, but also all of your interior space for both your passengers and your cargo. And that's honestly how minivans are able to achieve so much more room compared to an SUV. So basically, in all regards, minivans are just completely more practical and functional than SUVs. And this is why you see on Reddit that people just completely rave about minivans. Vans are kings of the paved road, period. More cargo space by far, better fuel economy, cheaper, and usually very comfortable to drive. So much this, my wife was the world's biggest anti-minivan person you could possibly meet. We got one, and she's had the opportunity to get other cars and wants nothing to do with anything else other than a minivan. I was Mr. Mom for 20 years, had a minivan with a ton of convenience features for 10 of the 20 years. Overall, favorite option was second row doors opening on each side with the push of a button. Many times I wish there was an eject button to launch the kids out. My only regret was that I didn't have the minivan for 20 of the 20 years. Even with adult children, the versatility is hard to beat. We just keep the back seat folded down most of the time and get a car with a huge flat cargo area. Then we could just fold up the seats if we need more people. Bought a new TV, it will fit in the van. Found a cool piece of furniture at the garage sale, throw it in the back. Just want a ton of legroom? No problem, the van has it. There is just so much vertical height in the back that no SUV or wagon can match, and you can comfortably fit adults in the back seat if you ever need to. The cargo area is as good as a pickup truck in a lot of situations. It's ridiculous about how much better vans are for many individuals, yet they have to stick to getting a way more impractical vehicle because they can't handle the stigma. Not like Highlanders aren't the modern soccer mom vehicle anyways, and that's a really good point. All right, and that's it for my opinion on all the reasons that minivans are vastly superior to SUVs. And I wonder if this is going to impact your decision to get a minivan, because I am very, very much wanting to get a minivan after we turned in our old 2002 Toyota Sienna. I really want a minivan again because they're honestly just the best vehicle in all regards. And I honestly think they look pretty great too. Way more functional, look fine, and they're just amazing. They're comfortable. I could just go on and on about it. However, I actually feel like right now is the worst time to buy a minivan, which is very unfortunate. And I'm going to discuss that in this video here. So if you're interested to hear my thoughts of why right now is absolutely the worst time to purchase a minivan, please check this video out and I'll see you in that video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.